Good evening. We're going to pick up where we left off last night. And if you guys watched, then you know exactly where we left off. And if you didn't, well, then you didn't see that we put together these two BP cast 20 millimeter uh, models. BA6 Russian armored car, and BT7 Russian light tank. These are kind of crude models, but wanted to take my hand at painting some tanks. Haven't painted in a very long time, and I want to do something fun. And I'm just taking a little bit of a break from the 15s because not that I don't want to complete the 15s, but it's kind of late right now, so it's kind of difficult to start painting some 15 millimeter figures at 9, 10 at night. So we're going to do something a little bit more fun, and we're going to do the tank first. Okay, we've already based it in black, and had some time to think about this today, and needed to do some touch up on this thing. And before we get in it, so let's go ahead and get our cheap black paint that we have here, just to finish primering this. This stuff dries pretty quick. And then we're also going to use this as the base black when we do the base color, which is this Russian green. We're not going to add Vallejo black to it. We're going to use El Cheapo black because we're kind of covering a big area. So I like using the good paint, but when you're just covering really big areas like terrain and stuff like that, it's just not necessary. So let's go ahead and get this thing open with a minimum of mess. This thing, the design of this top always seems to have some issues with that. And let's get some of this on here. It's really the only thing I use this for is, in my 15 millimeter painting, is painting the edge of the stand. Come on. I know you're in there. Need to get in the habit of storing this one upside down. That should be plenty for what we're doing. And we're going to go ahead and store this thing upside down. So when we use it again, we don't have the same issue. All right, let's grab a brush here. I'm not real picky about which one it is. This one should be fine. And we're going to just touch up this stuff in black. And this is really cheap paint. So I read somewhere that really cheap paint has a lot of filler as opposed to pigment, which means it's a lot flatter, which it doesn't matter. When we're done with this, we're going to be doing lots of coats of stuff on here, just like my 15s. So let's make sure we got that on there and set that down and see if we left anything off here. We don't want something in the recesses of this to really stand out. There's only a couple little spots. But by the time we're done, all of this is going to have, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 coats. More than normal, because we're going to do some weathering. We're not going to do anything intensive like chalks and stuff. We're going to just use products I already have. It should be able to get us where we need to go. So I mentioned earlier, I don't mind this being weathered. I don't want to be something where it looks ultra realistic and the figures still look like figures do. It's not that I don't try to paint my figures realistic, but they've got kind of a graphic novel type look to them. That's just the nature of the way that the castings are and everything. So that's kind of the look that I'm looking for. Okay, I think we're good with that. And we're not going to mess with that. Well, I already have the black, and let's let this dry a little bit. So let's see if we missed anything on the armored car that needs it, even though we're not going to mess with the armored car right now. And like I mentioned yesterday, these are pretty crude models, certainly by today's standards, but this is just kind of screw around and painted something that I've already had for like 20 years. I've had these guys for a long time, and and just felt like an itch to do something a little different. So we will see if I really enjoy this. There's lots more kits I already have that I've been sitting on for like 20 years, and we can hop around and do a couple different things. So while we're doing our 15s, just wanted to change it up a little bit. So it's not like I'm in a massive hurry to get my project done because it's not like I have to have them done by some convention or anything like that. Convention, what are those? All right. Not a whole lot of touch up, just a little bit here and there. Okay, we're gonna set that guy off to the side, and the armored car. We're not worried about him right now. All right, now we've got this green. How much space we have on here? We can probably do it on here. Although this is going to be one of those that I'm going to use more paint than I'm normally used to. So I don't think it's going to dry out on me. I'm going to be using it faster than it's drying out on me. So let's, for good measure, get black underneath here as well. Leave no resin part unpainted. Not that anybody's going to see this, but all right. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do the, and I haven't done a vehicle in a long time, but I've got a clue. It's not like I'm new to painting or anything. So, oh, armored car wants to fall over. Let's get some of this Russian green out here. And I need to make sure that this stuff is not too watery. I got one of those stainless steel mixing balls in there from Army Painter. Okay, we should be good with that. So there's the Russian green. We're going to add black slowly. More than that. And just like anything else, the bottom coat is going to have more than any other coat above it. So we're going to come in and we're going to do just kind of a wet, dry brush. If I miss some spots, it's okay because they're going to be deep down in the recesses, and it's not an issue. You know, there's equipment and stuff that we got to paint on here that could come afterwards. Right now, we're just worried about getting the green on here. Just worried about the green right now. Not worried about the edge of the tracks. This is actually a vehicle that I believe, I know the 5 was that way. I'm not sure if the 7 is consistent with that, but it could run on just the wheels. And in other words, you don't need the track for this thing to take off down the road. So kind of a cool vehicle with a Christie suspension. Kind of revolutionary for its time. Just doing a wet dry brush of this stuff right here. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. We're going to put some green in between this stuff because it could simulate that there's a hole on the other side of that. This is just a pretty primitive model. Pretty much. just Russian green and black. I remember the first army that I painted using Vallejo paints was my feudal Spanish. I didn't use Vallejo paints when I was doing any of my 20mm stuff. They just, I didn't know about them, or they didn't exist, or they weren't available, or something like that. And so the first time I used my Vallejo paints, I was already painting this type of method, but I was using the original Vallejo black when I needed black, and man, I went through a lot of that. Not a lot, but I went through, I went through a bottle and using one army, which is a lot. I mean, from if you've seen any of my painting, I don't really use that much paint per se. The paint is not that much used. Now, if you guys didn't know, if you listened to the talk that we did yesterday, but I'm not going to be. I was cogitating about it. This takes off. Maybe getting an airbrush, but I'm pretty certain I'm not going to get one. I just don't want to deal with. So a couple of people were on there also discouraged me from getting one, but I don't want to get frustrated. You know, that's my hobby causes me zero frustration, and I really want to keep it that way. It's it's my hobby, but it's really my therapy. So let's do something a little different because I can already see that this is going to be an issue. So let's go ahead and let's get another screw here, another drywall screw. These things are great for attaching other things on there. And let's grab some of the stickum stuff. I believe it was down here. Here it is. I forget what the stuff's called, so we'll use really basic terminology. This is the stuff that you can attach to posters and stuff like that. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna put this. Maybe use too big of a piece. I'm gonna put a ball of this stuff, and we're gonna attach it to here. We don't need a really great bond because this doesn't weigh anything. There you go. Okay, we got a little BT7 turret, and now we're going to do the same thing with the turret. Kind of a wet dry brush on here. This is going to be the same. This is the base color that we wanted to use with some black to it. And that was the other thing. I want to kind of experiment to see if this method of not using an airbrush is gonna work for me. I think it will. I painted a couple of other vehicles like this without an airbrush. I just don't want to take the time of cleaning it and all the other drama. I like painting here in my room that's temperature controlled, and I don't want to be in a sweaty garage. Okay, I get paid to sweat, so I certainly don't want to do that when I'm not there. Okay, so we've got like the first coat on here. All right, now we're going to go ahead and let's make sure that this kind of matches there. Yeah, that's pretty dark. All right, now we're going to go ahead and take this Russian green. I don't need to pick a new spot. I can go right over it. Should be fine. Let's put some more of this stuff here because it's okay if it blends with it a little bit. And we're going to weather after this. Right now we're just getting the basic color of the tank like if it was on a showroom. Just a showroom tank. I know a while ago somebody was saying the first time I did one of my armies, they're like, "Man, your figures look really dark." And I told them, "No, the problem is that I paint in really good light, and they look appropriate to the light I paint in. You go anywhere else, and it's the lighting is poor, and it makes it like they don't stand out. If I was going to paint them so that they look good in crappy lighting, I wouldn't be able to stand what they would look like here. They would just be way too bright. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So this is almost straight Russian green, but not quite. And I'm willing to give this a shot on this model because this model is kind of crappy looking to begin with. Crude. And I wanted to start with the Russians because there's no doubt what color I was going to use. Instead of having do I want the Panzer dark yellow, dunkelgelb, or do I want the gray color, depending on the vehicle. Some vehicles are pretty obvious, you can only do one or the other, but if you're doing some mid-war stuff, if you're doing like German half-track, SDKF Z251, the C variant, those go both ways. They served into 43 and stuff. If you're doing German trucks, they served throughout the war, so you got to decide, what color you're going to paint them. Same thing with Panzer IIIs with the long barrel. I got one of those to build. I got a Flam Panzer III to build. Those are actual model kits, so I got to really enjoy how this looks to start delving into that. I've built model kits before, but it just takes a long time. I haven't done it since the 90s, since the early 90s. Okay. That's what we're looking like so far. And I got several die-cast vehicles that I could potentially paint up. They're already made. I'm not really interested in building the kits. I've done that before. It's cool, but I'd rather spend a long time painting something than just painting building a bunch of road wheels and sanding them and all that nonsense. I've done that. I've been there. All right, let's see what we're looking like here. Come on, focus. There we go. And we haven't done any pin washing or anything like that. This is just to kind of get the basic color. I'm not going to get an airbrush and do that zethanol method and all that. I don't have time for that. I don't have time to clean the airbrush. That's what I don't have time for. So, all right, so let's go over with a little lighter. And we're going to use, what are we going to lighten this thing up with? Let's lighten this up with like an ochre color. Let's see what we got here. Nope, that's tan earth. Something with a little bit of yellow. Nope. Come on. I know what color I'm looking for. Yeah, something like this, like a green ochre. We're only going to use a tad of it. Tad little bit of it. Not going to go crazy. Not going to go crazy. All right, let's get some of this over here. Let's make sure we're completely done with this green before we go and add any lightener to it. And this is a 20 millimeter scale, even though 20 millimeter really isn't a scale. It's approximately 1/72nd scale from BP Cast. And I've had this about 20 years and done not a damn thing with it. So feels good actually doing something with it. And if I don't like how this turns out, we can use this for a wreck or something. Yeah. I don't mind doing the vehicles, but the games I play in skirmish, we don't have a ton of vehicles running around. It's just a handful of them. So, and this is the kind of vehicle that one of those little Pack 36s could take out relatively easy. This thing has very little armor. I'm not sure if any part of it has even 20 millimeters. It might be. Not much more than that. Just really lightly armored. One of those Panzerbusch anti-tank rifles could probably mess it up some. There's just do a little bit here. Just a little bit. Panzerbusch. But this was my jam. World War II was my jam, and in the 20th century, that's all we used to do. Everything World War II-ish. It was a great. It's a good balance between technology and brute force. So there's just enough. Technology is just primitive enough that people can be surprised and stuff like that. It's not like you have all the jamming and all that kind of stuff that it's kind of like when we used to do naval warfare. You know, aircraft carriers kind of ruin the whole point of the whole battleship type thing. You know, they make it so that if one side wants to avoid the enemy, they can. So, which might be good in real life, but makes for crappy surface actions. And we're probably going to go one level brighter than this by the time we're done. Let's add a little bit more of this. Okay. And then let's gently go over that. I'm going to try to highlight these things lighter the closer they are to the top of the vehicle. I know that all sounds good on paper. We're just kind of going with the flow here. Oh, that's too bright. There we go. I said, I want these vehicles to kind of have the same look my figures do. These don't need to be IPMS, super realistic looking vehicles. That's not what I'm trying to achieve. So there's some people out there that do model kits, and their model kits look better than the real vehicle. This is not what we're going for. And we're still going to do some washes and stuff like that. We're not just going to just dry brush it. have a nice day. We're going to do a little bit more than that. All right, let's see what we're dealing with here. It's funny on the camera, at least when I'm seeing it, almost looks like the color that British tanks are, like that bronze green. But that's not what it looks like here. It looks like the right Russian green color. Okay, I think I'm going to stop there. I'm not going to keep bringing it up more. Let's just take this slow and easy. Let's just take this slow and easy. When did Russia go with the green? I do not know. I do not know. When I was doing micro armor, which is what we first started doing in the mid '80s, I had Russians and I painted all my Russians brown. I just think it looked better. I tend to like vehicles that kind of are complementary to the uniform colors. Like for instance, I like my German vehicles gray. If given a choice, I want my German vehicles gray. I want my Russian vehicles brown. But because there's some examples of vehicles of Russian vehicles pointed in brown, but realistically, they all used green. I'm not really sure when they started doing that. But the thing is this is kind of the color that the Russian helmets are. Even though they had brown uniforms, their helmets were still like dark green. So it still works, as far as that goes. So okay, right. Um, Early war, they were brown. I don't think they were early. I don't think they were brown early war. I think they were always green throughout the war. I thought you meant like if in the 20s or something like that. And there's some schemes that some units were brown, but it depends on their sense of urgency. I'm sure before the war, the stuff early war was painted better than the stuff mid-war because they had that one tractor, they had that one T-34 factory where they came right out of the T-34 factory right in action at Stalingrad, and those T-34s had a particularly different turret. The back of their turret was, hey, this is the stuff that I remember from modeling in 135th scale. The tanks, the T-34s that came out of Stalingrad, the back plate was straight completely for simplicity. And as a matter of fact, some of those went into action without the turrets even being painted. So, yeah, when you got your back up against the wall and you're giving it all you can, you're not worried about how your stuff's painted. Yeah. All right. So let's see if we can get away with doing this because I'd like to see it all together. Wish there was something I could screw this thing into. That looks good so far. What we're going to do is we're going to paint this box here. We're going to paint these little tarps and stuff like that before we go in the water. And there's some wood pieces here. That's the tires, the tracks, that kind of stuff. So the lights, that kind of thing. So let's consult the old pooter. And Google Image is my favorite, even though I've got all kinds of reference materials. Anything I can pull off the computer is almost certainly going to be in color. So I'm gonna go out here and look for BT7 in color. Okay, and yeah, we got big titanium model kits and all kinds of stuff that we can do. That's funny. Back when I used to do them, they didn't make a BT7. Okay, let's see. Those tracks are all metal. Right. Let's go ahead and paint the little tires on here first. Now let's grab my gray. I want to use a really, really, really dark gray, a damn near black gray. Let's see if I can find it here, because we want to simulate rubber, but rubber that's kind of been out in a while. And of course, we're going to weather over this, but we want to just have a base color already here in mind. What's this one down here in the corner? Let's see. German gray. I think we'll do this German gray and go even a little darker than that. We don't want to use black. Ryan Alaric, welcome. You're busy looking at the green of the tank. I just stabbed myself with my X-Acto blade. Ha! Modeling is dangerous business. All right, let's get a brush. The opposite of, I say a brush that I don't care for. How about a brush that we're proud of? How about that? The opposite of that. A brush that brings a tear to your eye. We could do a little bit bigger than that. Yeah. All right. Let's get us some here. Why is this one so watery? Expect the unexpected. Nothing a super glue band-aid won't fix. I had a friend of mine's dad who used to do that, and I always thought, like, can't that like poison your blood? I don't know. But apparently they do that in the emergency room too, so I'm just gonna paint little road wheels here, the rubber on them. Is the rubber on that one? On the idler wheel? No, and not on the one on the back. Perfect. So I was talking yesterday about this little guy. I believe this is a three-man tank. I could be wrong. I believe it's a three-man tank. There's a driver. There's no assistant driver in this one. There's a driver and then two folks in the turret. You got a commander slash gunner, and you got a loader. Even the T-34, not the T-34-85, but the T-34-76, all versions of it had a two-man turret. So, that's one of the things that's really interesting about the T-34 is the sloped armor is kind of a double-edged sword. On one hand, you get more bang for the buck because it's at an angle. So it only has like, I want to say, I'm just pulling things out of the sky here. So if I get them wrong by a little bit, then, you just have to forgive me. I haven't looked this stuff up in many years, but a T-34 has somewhere around 45, 50 millimeters of armor max, but it's sloped. So it becomes equivalent to like maybe 70 or something like that. But the problem what happens is that because it's sloped, there's there's less space devoted to the crew compartment. Okay, and the way I can describe that is that if you're in a room that is square sided, you have the whole space of the room. Like if the turret was a room, you can use all the way up to the side of the wall. But if it's sloped at like a 45-degree angle, there's a portion close to the edge that you can't use because you can't fit in there because it's kind of sloped. So that was kind of the catch 22. You got more bang for the buck armor wise, but it didn't have as much space for crew compartment, so it was more compact. I don't know if that makes sense, but like the German tanks, like the Panzer threes and fours, they're all slab sided, so they don't get much of the benefit from their armor thickness is whatever the armor thickness. I mean, yeah, some of it was sloped at maybe 10 degrees or something like that, but it wasn't very significant. But they had better crew comfort than than the sloped Russian tanks. So that's all we're doing. All we're doing is just adding a little bit of rubber there on the sides. Like I said, this is a pretty damn crude tank. You know, that's all we're gonna do on that. We don't want to do black because if you get your tires, you get your tires on your car, you go and drive it down a dirt road for a while, and they're not gonna look. None of it's gonna look black at all until it rains again. Okay. Um, should have been American tank. What should have been American tank? The tank I was doing. Um, you know why I didn't do a Sherman, and I've got Shermans to do. The reason I didn't do a Sherman is the Sherman kits I have look a lot better than this. These guys are really crappy looking kits. So I figured if I'm just kind of experimenting here, then I don't really want to. I don't really want to use something that's super super nice. If that makes any sense. Okay. Now these tracks are steel, but I don't want to paint them steel and then try to wash them. I'm going to paint them in a color that they're going to look rusty-ish already. So let's grab our orange brown. No, I'm not going to paint them that color. But that's why I didn't do a Sherman. Because I got lots of Shermans to do and I got Americans to do. And I like the Eastern Front stuff the best. I like the Eastern stuff. I like the Eastern Front stuff the best because it's like, which bad guy do you want to play? You know? Um, and I don't know if I'm going to use these things in a game well, I can tell you right now, I won't be using these in a game anytime soon. But unlike an actual model kit, there's a chance I may use them sometime, as opposed to something that just sits on a shelf. So this is orange brown. Oh, I'm doing something I've never done before. I've painted tanks, but I've never done this. All right. What am I going to do? Haha. Just you wait. Just you wait. We're going to mix some black here. Mix a little bit more black. And we are going to have metal on it, but we're not going to do that until like the final stage. So you see this like black, rusty, crap looking thing? Brown. That's what we're going to paint all the tracks in. We're going to paint the entire track in this color. And then we will come back and we will highlight the parts that stick out in the worn color, because that's what would happen. This thing would rust like a son of a bitch. And then it would be shiny where it would wear. So should be American. What game are you painting these for? So right now, I'm not painting them for a game because I don't World War II game right now. But when I did, I play what I like to call Ultra Skirmish, and there's a set of rules that's out of print now. It's called the Face of Battle, and it's very few vehicles you would have on the board at one time. It's almost like a role playing game almost like a World War II role playing game, if you will. Not as much as Final Combat. Final Combat really is almost like a role playing game, but you need to run like 4 or 5 figures per person. So it's not like you're running a platoon side. That's what happens with skirmish. A lot of guys say, "Oh, this is a skirmish game," but then they have you moving 30 figures around and making decisions that a platoon commander would have. That's not a skirmish game. That's a company-sized game, and you're moving individual figures around. So that's not really what I'm interested in. So this is right now. I've had these things for 20 freaking years and done nothing with them. And I just kind of wanted to take a break, paint something a little different. Want to try my style at, want to try my chance at painting some vehicles with. So I got this hankering of maybe getting an airbrush for my birthday this year. It's kind of a big number this year, so I figured, well, maybe I'll buy myself an airbrush. But I want to talk myself out of getting one because I'm really comfortable with my painting skills, with my brushes. Not so comfortable with all the issues that happen with an airbrush. Kind of like 3D printer. I have no interest in getting a 3D printer because I don't want all those problems that go with one. Um, so right now I'm not painting them for and necessarily for a game. But if we did play a game with this stuff, we wouldn't have more than 4 vehicles on a side. Um, that kind of thing. So Germans you do is dark gray or dark yellow. Well, it depends. If I'm doing early war stuff, I would do gray. If I was doing later, I would do the dark yellow. I prefer the gray. I just think that the Germans more traditional in gray. But if I'm going to build a model of a panther, I'm not going to do the panther in gray because after at that point there was no gray panthers. So there's a handful of gray tigers, but very very few. And yeah. You always weather everything with enamels and mud effects, and you rarely see treads after that anyway. Yes, I do not want to use any of those mud effects. Um, because, and I mentioned this in a feed yesterday, there's some people out there, and you may actually be one of them. I do not know. I do not know what your modeling skills are. But there are some folks out there that do vehicles that look better than the real vehicle. Okay. And I don't mean that as a knock, they do an excellent job. But I don't think, in my opinion, I don't want my vehicles to look that way because I don't think it matches the look of the figures. Um, what I mean by that is the figures that I do, any miniatures that I do, they have a um, not a cartoonish, but they have a graphic novel type of look to them. And to do a figure that looks like this, and then do a vehicle that has all of the dust and the stuff caked. It's like I want more fake contrast in it for my look. So if you can imagine, like if you go like to the Flames of War website, okay, you'll see that their vehicles they're not necessarily realistic looking. It's not like they're weird colors or anything. They're just they're over saturated or what have you. And I think that's what I'm going for. I don't want the ultra realistic stuff because then I'm going to want an airbrush, and I really don't. I want to see what we can do with this. So airbrushes changed the way I paint. Early in Russia, Germans had gray and brown. Usually use mud for brown. Yeah, they started using some browns and stuff in 42. I just kind of wanted to do something with these vehicles that I've had a long time. And I think we're gonna bring this up a little bit, and then we still are going to do some kind of a weathering, and it's going to cover up some of this, but not a tremendous amount. I'm still going to go light on the weathering. That's just how I want them. So, what's that new saying? I see all the time now. You know how there's always these trendy sayings, and I tend to dislike them because they always seem awkward. And after you hear them twice, you're like, okay, what's this new thing coming out? And the new one I've heard this year is "you do you." So yeah, you do you. No, there's some spectacular modelers out there with, but yeah, I can't spend. I'm not going to spend 20 hours painting this. And I could do that. I'm that anal retentive. I don't want to spend 20 hours painting this, and this is a kit that the quality is crap. Okay, I mean, I would have to get something better than that, but I already have this, so you know. Anywho, that's I digress. Okay, so we've got that thing up here that's also rusty. Okay, we've got this muffler type device. So let's go ahead and give this the same treatment. So, hey, it's whatever you like. I know that I got some comments on something that I painted the other day. I painted some knights, and somebody was complaining that they didn't like how thick my stands were, and I'm like, but that's what I like. I don't like the wafer thin stands, and what we're talking about is this stuff. I like the 3 millimeter thick stands. The thicker your stand is, the more likely, even though I'm not doing it right now, that you have a chance of picking them up by the stand and not damaging the figures. So I don't like the wafer thin stands. You know, I don't go around and say, "Hey, your stands look too bad. Your stands are so damn thick." Hey, I try to keep everything. I can be nasty. Don't get me wrong, but I don't like being nasty about my hobby stuff. This is all should be positive. This is a form of therapy for many of us. And if you don't have something nice to say, then how about just keep it to yourself, Um, keep the modeling and stuff clean. Anyhow, well, that's how I carry myself. But then again, as I like to say, I'm actually nicer on the internet than in person. Because if you're nasty to somebody on the internet, then you got to defend yourself and all that crap. I don't have time for that, you know. Anyhow, this is something else that rusts back here. These things tend to rust like a mow. I've actually never done this kind of a dark rust mix color, and I like it. But I haven't. I mean, hell, I haven't painted vehicles in 20 years. You know, and we're going to come back up with the green and touch up the center there. Let's bring this up a little bit. Yeah, see, the thing about painting is I don't mind that it takes a long time because you're constantly moving forward. I don't like things like the airbrush cleaning because that's not moving forward. That's stepping back the way I look at it. So I don't think I want to get into that. I did buy, and I mentioned this yesterday, I did buy a cheap airbrush that Don Harding talked me into doing that I did for some of the game mats that I had. He said, "Hey, if you want a cheap airbrush, they have one at Harbor Freight for like $80." And sure enough, uh, it was $80, and and it came with a compressor. And of course, the compressor didn't have a tank or anything. I just kind of figured, well, I'll throw $80 at it and see what I could get out of it. And I was pretty happy with what I was able to do with it, which is not much. I mean, I wasn't able to do kits or anything like that, but uh, I fought with it enough that I don't want one. I don't want to do the cleaning step and all of that. And I know that a better one would have given me less problems. But actually, the biggest problem I had with it, I've used an airbrush a long time ago. We had one that we could use at a hobby store when I worked at in early 90s. But the biggest problem I had with this one, and I mean, I even went online, and this one guy had a video about how to make Jesus juice, which is what he called his thinner that he thinned his paints with to get it to flow properly. I did all that. And the biggest problem was getting the paint to suck up from the device, whatever it was. it just kept jamming, and I have to stop and clean it. I mean, I was thinning the paints. It wasn't like the paints were 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 thick or anything or splattering or anything. And it was just I was having issues with an airbrush that I never have with painting by brush. And having done this for over 35 years, it's when you have issues with stuff like that, it feels weird. It feels weird to be having really basic issues with something with your painting. So let's paint up these little lights on here. And yeah, I'm not shooting for realistic on stuff like this. I'm going to paint them like this. I mean, obviously, not the whole thing, but I'm having fun with this. And yeah, it's not ultra realistic. I mean, look at this casting. It kind of looks like crap. So I don't need to spend all this other stuff on things. Now I did buy microsol and microset, so when we get some decals for the red stars and stuff like that, we'll get that stuff going. I used to build models on 1/35th scale a long time ago. Not to the quality of the stuff that you can see on the internet. I mean, there's some wizards out there now, but the internet's made us all better. Hopefully, you can see examples of things that turn out really well and go, I want my stuff to look like that. What do I got to do? You learn from each other. Where's my black? I'm using the cheap black tonight. It's a little bit more than that. Oh, here we go. Used to have the old sheet metal bases for my micro armor. Hated them. Rebases on 30mm ply as soon as I could. My micro armor was never based. And you know what else? It was so long ago. None of my micro armor was ever sealed. I would just paint stuff, and I wouldn't spray seal them. I was a kid. I'm going to do that. That's an extra step. That's an extra step. Why the hell do I want to do that? Stupid kid. Let's see. This is what's tricky about it. I got to put this in a way that I can reach this. So, yeah, I'm not going for ultra realistic. I'm going for impressionistic a little bit. But you know what? It's funny, and I mentioned this again last night. There was a modeler that there's so much modeling stuff on there, on the internet. I mean, on YouTube, so much stuff on there. So there's a modeler on there that is one of these guys that makes the tanks look better than they do in real life. He's that good. And he made a video about painting a figure because he'd been modeling umpteen years and never painted a figure. He was scared. So this guy that was like, pro level armor painter had never painted a figure. And I'm the opposite. I'm like, I'm much more comfortable with figures and painting faces and all that kind of stuff. But, it's comfort. How many times have I done it, So thought that was funny. Not everybody's good at everything, you know. Not everybody's good at everything, and that's okay. Now there's a dimple in the middle of these lights, and I know damn well that they didn't have a dimple in the middle of it. But I just kind of have to go with it. Like I said, this is a very not a high quality model. but I already had it, and I had a hankering to paint something a little different. I want to do is I want to paint the crew member in there. That's the part I enjoy. I love painting figures. I love painting figures. Very true. I'm terrible at cooking. You are. That's hilarious. I we watched a couple of your videos last night. I showed it to the girls, and they got a big kick out of it. I lived alone 11 years, and I never cooked, and I never went hungry. I'm really good at assembling things. When I lived alone, this is in the mid 90s, I would have Diet Pepsi in my fridge and cold cuts. That was it. That's all I had, and chips like in the pantry. If I wanted something more than that, I would just I would go out to eat. But that's the thing. That's the thing that people say. I said, well, how do you have the patience to work on these miniatures? Well, how do you have the patience to like spend 4 hours cooking and then clean everything up when you can just go through a drive-through and eat something different? Everybody has patience for different things. It's just how you decide to spend it. You know, you don't have time to do everything. You can't like be like a professional cook and then paint figures. It just doesn't. There's just not enough time. That it doesn't add up. So we're all specialized in our own ways. So that sounds like you now. Yeah, and you don't go hungry, right? I've never gone hungry. And it used to be when the girls leave the house, I would be like, okay, what's in the pantry? Old crackers, peanut butter, stuff that just doesn't even go together. I'm like, I just want to eat and move on, you know? That doesn't mean I don't enjoy a good meal. I just don't think that, there's just sometimes you want to just put something in your stomach and move on, you know? That's, we got a little shovel to paint here. Let's have fun with this shovel. I've seen some people that do paint metallic things with non-metallic colors, and I can't do that. I'm not there yet. I'm not one of those people that can paint like an MP40 and like not use the gunmetal or something like that for the trim. In other words, just use grays. I don't dislike how it looks. It's just kind of, I don't know, I'm kind of scared of doing that. So anywho, hey, that's me. There's probably somebody going, well, I measured the metal flakes, and the metal flakes on the paint in this scale is actually not proportional. It would actually be like the size of like Rubik's cubes if you scale. Okay, whatever, dude. But that's a bit much. We're going to end up giving this a Nuln oil. We're not done with this. We're going to do some nun oilage to this. And maybe that Agrax shade that I bought and I've never done any with. It's like a rusty type color. It's like a brownish type of Agrax. What's it called? Silly Games Workshop names. What is this stuff? Agrax Earth Shade. Yeah, this stuff. It almost looks like it's rusty. That's why I said I don't want to use a high quality vehicle and then like ruin it. You know. If I don't like how this turns up, guess what? It's going to be a wreck. But yeah, we got this in the armored car. I got lots of kits. I've had this stuff for 20 years or so. This is back when I go to a show and I get so excited about buying something. Now I'm like, I don't need that. Now it's like, what's a show? But that's beside the point. I got lots of self-control now. I got a hankering for these kits. Did I go out and buy kits that looked better, that were easy to put together? No, I just went and bought these things already. I pulled these guys out that I've had for 20 years because I won't feel bad about it if I just decide that. If I right now I just said, I don't want to do this anymore. I didn't lose anything. I had this kit that I've had for 20 years and was just sitting there anyway. So, all right, let's get us a shovel color. The color of shovel. What's this? Flat Earth. That's a good color for it. I think somebody had said that they were painting some panther or something like that and said, well, a lot of the camouflage they just sprayed over the tools. Like in real life, I'm like, I don't care if they did that. I'm not doing that. There's there's several rules that I don't care if they did them in real life. I'm just not going to do them. That's one of them. Another one is, and I mentioned this before, is if you're doing like Northwest Europe British vehicles, I'm not going to paint a U.S. star on the roof. I don't care if they did it in real life. It just looks wrong. It's just not something I'm going to do. So there's artistic license with, I think, any kind of painting that you do. I'm sure there's people out there that aren't going to paint orcs in green. They want to paint them in, whatever color they used to be in. Well, they were like brown or something like that. There's artistic license on everything. There's nothing wrong with that. Put your own spin on what you're doing. Yeah, see, look, there's actually part of the shovel missing there. Looks like it took a shell hit. Whatever. I'll just paint over it and just forget that's there. I'm not going to stress about it. You clearly have too many hobbies. I love cooking, painting figures, and building stuff. Nah, it's okay. That is okay. I think I'd be good at cooking, to be honest with you, because I do enjoy all those flavors and stuff. It's not like I'm like a McDonald's guy or anything like that. Although I still think McDonald's is probably the best Scottish food out there, but that's not saying a whole lot. This is also coming from somebody who's never had Scottish food, so But I think I would appreciate all that stuff. But I just don't think it's worth my time for something that's so damn eat. It takes so long to make and then you just eat it, and that's it. Like my wife has baked cakes and stuff like that for different occasions. I'm like, they're really cool, but you eat them and it's gone. I'm like, no. Nobody's eating. Nobody walks in and like eats my BT7 as an hors d'oeuvre or something like that. That's just not going to happen. That's why I like painting, because it doesn't matter how long this takes. I don't have to do it again. It's not like when you do yard work and then 2 weeks later the damn grass grew again. Son of a bitch. It's done. It's done. You feel good about it. You can look at it later and you've accomplished something. Um, doesn't matter how long it may end up taking you. It's complete and you never have to do it again. All right, so we got a happy little box hanging out over here. So let's give it some personality. One of my favorite little routines is you go up to somebody and you say, "Hey, where's that box?" And when they go, "What box?" "The box for you to stand on and kiss my ass." One of my favorite ones. Kicking it like it's 1989. Yeah, let's use leather brown for this, even though it's not a leather box. But this is just a nice shade. Reaching across this for the black's getting kind of annoying. Let's pull some of this. Let's pull some of this and drop it here in the where the black stuff is. All right. Well, I'm enjoying this little thing. Like I said, I would have gotten tired if I was just painting 15s, but this is just allowing me to a little bit of creativity. Yeah, we'll go back and do the 15s over the weekend. When I know I can paint for a couple hours or something like that. Because I've got what? I got 2.5 figures to do, and then all the bowmen are done. And then technically I could play my Hungarians, but I don't think that's gonna. I think I'm gonna hold out until all the options are done. So The problem with doing World War II stuff is then you got to worry about, if you run a game, you got to worry about your stuff walking off or people damaging your things. With the DBA, it's pretty easy to not have to worry about that. It's very comforting that pretty much nobody touches your figures except you. So, um, am I planning to record any World War II games? Is there a DBA-esque rule set for World War II? There may be, but I'm not touching that with a 30-foot pole. I am. I may do World War II rule sets, but I've got to get back into it and I've got to get refamiliarized with the rules. And they move very slow. And it may be something that at some point in the future I may solo game. But no, not DBA. I've said this before. I won't play another Phil Barker set of rules. One's enough. And I'm not knocking him. I'm just saying that that verbiage of trying to wrap your head around what he's trying to say, it's not it's not even the verbiage, it's the way the rules are organized. I'm not going to deal with that with another set of rules. And unlike DB8, it's very vague. The World War II stuff I like to play is very, very specific. That's kind of my thing for World War II. That's why I've mentioned this before. I don't play World War II because I get real particular about what I want, and I want it to have ultra detail, even if it's unplayable, because you're only running like a half a squad, so you get to see these little vignettes appear, and I really like to play it for the standpoint of the narrative that gets created in the process of playing. So it's the opposite of DBA. You're going to play in an evening and you're not going to get anything done. You're not going to get come to a conclusion. So, and I'm not knocking it. It's a totally different animal. It's a totally different animal. But that's what I enjoy in World War II stuff. You're in hand-to-hand range and throwing grenades, and you throw a grenade at one guy and he misses, and you got to roll to see where it lands, and it ends up hurting someone else, and it could land on your own guys. Those kind of antics, and the situations that arise from those types of situations are what I enjoy in that type of a rule set. So when you're talking about running vehicles, yeah, you're only going to run a couple of vehicles on a side at the most. And not only the vehicles are in there, but you got to do the actions for the people that are inside the vehicle. So it's really pretty cool, but it moves kind of slow. We were coming up with our own rule set way back a long time ago, in the mid '90s, and it just kind of never materialized because my buddy at the time was kind of here one week, gone the next. He was I think he was in the reserves at the time, but he was very nomadic, and we weren't playing every week. Let's put it that way, and that's what it would have taken. So, as I like to call him, the old Mitch. And it's a shame he's not living in town anymore because he would be a nice asset to the people that we're playing with now. So he would have gotten along just fine. But he's been kind of he's been active military ever since we started playing DBA. So I have played about 40 games with him in DBA, but it's been a long time. But we were coming up with our own set of rules, not really getting anywhere. And then I'm always surfing for different rules and see what would work out. And I came across a set of rules called the Face of Battle, and they're scary close to what we were coming up with. The only difference is that we had, and I was always a percentile player, so all my rules were always use percentile dice, and this was a percentile. The only thing that was different from this set of rules and what I was doing was that when you're talking about like rifle fire or something like that between one figure to another, our rules had a to hit number and then an effect number. You would roll twice, and this one kind of combines them in one. and it doesn't keep track of individual ammo, but there are sometimes times where you have to spend an extra action to reload or unjam or something like that that supposedly figures that in. But other than that, everything is still very tactical level. But you're talking about moving one figure at a time. You're not talking about moving all one side stuff. So it's it can take a while to get through a turn. That doesn't mean it's boring. It just takes a while to get through a turn. So it isn't for everybody. But if I'm going to play World War II, that's what I require. I just I just play DBA or something else. It's not like I have to have that detail in everything I do. It's just World War II stuff. So what did the Dalai Lama ask for when he entered the pizzeria? Can you make me one with everything? There you go. Pizza. You prefer chain of command to bolt action. So I've seen bolt action played, and I've played chain of command and watched several of the chain of command videos. So I don't prefer either one. I prefer chain of command to bolt action. Bolt action just seems it's very Warhammer-ish, and I've never played Warhammer, so that's not an appealing adjective for me. Is something that seems that way. So chain of command's okay. I think that it's one level up more than I would like. In other words, I wish it was zoomed in by one level. At chain of command, you can run multiple. Now, there's some cool stuff about it, like the whole where the battle takes place and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't want to run. I don't want to run more than a half squad. I think that only other rule set that I've enjoyed, other than the face of battle, is one called that came out within the last 10 years, and it's called Normandy Firefight. And of course, it has no vehicles at all, and it's only British and Americans. I mean, you could turn it into Russians if you wanted to. It's just weapons data. It's pretty easy to do, and it's percentile dice as well. And that one's even a little bit more zoomed in. So you got like chain of command is you can run more guys. Then you've got like face of battle. Um, you got Normandy Firefight that's a little bit more zoomed in than that, and even more zoomed in than that is a rule set called Final Combat, and that's almost like a role playing game. And I have a copy of that, and I looked at it, and I'm like, oh, this is too much. This is too role play ish, you know, for what I want. But there's rules there for everybody, and if you're playing something that is not a tournament, like DBA is the first thing I played that's a tournament game. I've never played anything that was a tournament before, ever. I'm just used to everything that I played. I had to provide all the stuff for. I had to provide all the figures and things like that. So it never materialized because I didn't do a very good job of staying on task. I'd be like, "Ooh, shiny," and go off in a different direction. Doing videos like this helps me tremendously to avoid doing things like that. But yeah, I never played in tournaments until I played DBA. And it's not necessarily the tournament play that's exciting. It's the I want to play with my own figures. If I play with my own figures, then there's my incentive to get more figures. If I'm just using somebody else's figures at a convention game, then what's the incentive in buying more if somebody already has them all, kind of thing. So, but hey, there's lots of people that don't want to paint. That's okay. I just need to be willing to play, and you know, you we'd be good. We'll just do some tarps over here to paint up. But if other people like bolt action and stuff, see what I think is weird. This is when I start sounding like I'm old. When I started wargaming, There were companies that made the rules, and then there was companies that made the figures. Not both. I've never played any rule sets where the company that made the figures also made the rules. So I find it really strange when you got something like Flames of War or something like that, and like almost seems like they need to sell more figures, so they redo the the rules or something like that. I find it very strange when they do that. I'm still kind of alien to it, so stuff like Warlord games and all that kind of stuff. It's just really weird that they make the rules and the figures, because that's not how I am used to it being. I mean, I know that it's been that way for a long time, and there's many companies that do the same thing, and I know why they do it. But at the same point, the problem I have with it as being a slow painter, I don't want to get involved in a rule set that I really like, and then all of a sudden, the company pulls their interest in it, like many titles that happened in Games Workshop. There was two titles that I really wanted to play in Games Workshop, and I never got a chance to play them. One of them was a game called Dark Future, which was kind of like a Car Wars game. I mean, we've got Gaslands now, but I'm talking about for many years there was nothing really that could do that. So Dark Future was that, and by the time I found out about it, they discontinued it. And the other one was a little naval fantasy game called Man War, and they also discontinued that. So as somebody who spends way too much time painting figures, why would I want to uh, get on board with a company that makes rules that they'll run them for 2 years and then discontinue them? Because I'm, I value my time, so I don't want to all of a sudden not be able to use my figures because they just decided not to have those rules anymore. But that's just my outlook on it. It may not be yours. That's fine, but I find it very difficult to get on board with companies who have that kind of. I don't want them wasting my time. One of my favorite sayings that I came up with, or at least I say I came up with it because I use it at work and stuff like that, is just because you don't value my time doesn't mean I don't value my time. I don't like people wasting my time on stuff. So, I don't want somebody all of a sudden just change stuff and I can no longer do what I want to do. Now, I understand that just because they discontinue them doesn't mean I can't keep playing them, but by the same token, I know that a lot of people, once they find something that's out of production, they'll move on to greener pastures. So we do, unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, we do rely on other players to play our games. Like I said, you could be the best player in the world, but if nobody wants to play with you because you're a butthole, then what good does it do you, right? It is a social activity. So yeah, there's nothing keeping you from continuing to play the game, but anyhow, that was my ramble for that. But sounds like you would enjoy playing a Phil Barker style game. I don't think so. Freak Creeks feel like free form rules. He used percentile dice as set of difficulty. And he made up rulings on the spot, given what made them. Well, if I was going to get the boys to play this stuff, if I wanted to get them to play Face a Battle, the way I would go about it would be I'm going to run one side. I'll tell you exactly how I would do it. This is literally exactly the way I would do it. I've got about a platoon's worth of Germans. Okay, and they all have very basic. These guys are 20 years old. Okay, I don't know if you can tell. These guys are still painted to the level that I paint things now. They're painted well. Their basing sucks. It's very primitive and it's very 1990s. We didn't know any better. We had no internet to share ideas. I would redo the basing on my Germans and I would paint up French resistance fighters, which I probably have like 2 or 3 squads worth to do. And everybody would run partisans and I would run the Germans and we would do little commando type stuff. and with that little French taxi I pulled out the other day, and that's what we would do. Because I think that that would be, you're not bogging. What bogs the game down is when you've got a competitive game against other players with fog of war, where you're like, hey, let me talk to you outside as the GM, and you waste a lot of time with that. And it's a lot easier when you just get everybody on one side, and then at least one side the Germans are moving quicker. But I'd have to practice it a lot. Although um, it's pretty self. What am I looking at? It's pretty. It makes a lot of sense the way the rules are. And the other thing that helps is you're almost playing in the actual scale of the figures, because 1 centimeter is a meter in that game. So you're not. It's not compressed. Where these infantry figures can only fire 6 inches away, and the tanks are almost as far as it can fire. It's pretty close in the scale of what the actual figures are, and that's the other thing that a big appeal to me. So. But if I was going to get the boys to do that, that's probably how I'd go around about it. I'd run all the Germans and paint the little partisan guys. So Kareem Bakal played with him for years and continues the tradition. I don't know about making up rules. I mean, although I have a pretty high sense of honor, but there's some people that you'd play with that you couldn't do that with. They would just make up shit, and. No, but there's rules for everything in there. I just got to be able to. You got to know how to play the game before you bring other people in, and all of a sudden, people that could potentially enjoy a game don't, because you're just fumbling around. It's okay for a game to take a long time to play, as long as you get to make decisions along the way and you're not bored as a player. So, but right now we're just enjoying painting this little guy. I don't know if anything will come of this or not, but what time is it? 10:30. Okay. Having trouble building this up. You know what? I'm so damn thirsty. Let me go get some water. I'll be right back. Okay. So, it's been a while since I've done these weatherings. As a matter of fact, I don't think I've done any kind of weathering that has been what I would call professional level. So I'm probably going to watch some videos, but I'm thinking what I'm going to do is we're going to finish painting this non-weathered. Okay. Then what I will probably do is seal this with a water-based, with an acrylic sealer, and then go do the weathering over it. And I may do enamels for the weathering. I don't mind using enamels as long as yeah, I don't mind using enamels at all. So I've got some decals. I've got to go search over the weekend and find out if I got some red stars. I can probably paint the numbers on there, but I'd like to have some red stars on there. It's nice having a little red thing that just kind of gives it a pop on there. And I think we're going to highlight one color green a little bit more. And I'm not sure what color this is looking like, but it's looking pretty good on my, well, in 1-to-1 scale here, it's looking pretty good. Let me put my glasses on so I can see at a distance here. Yeah, it's looking okay. And then probably do some weathering and stuff like that. I don't know if I'm going to get into the whole chipping thing. I've seen people do it. That's way too much trouble for something that the miniature honestly doesn't look very good. I think this back here turned out really well. And as a matter of fact, let's do we have any of the green still alive? Let's go ahead and paint. Let's go ahead and paint the stuff in between there and to bring that up to speed. But that's what I'm thinking of. I think that's the order that I'm going to do things in. Now I gotta go watch a couple of videos by some of these masters and see what order that they do things in. But I got Microset coming in, should be in next week. I want to do the decals right so that it doesn't look like a damn decal. I could paint the red stars, but come on, I don't have time for that. You know, I could spend that time doing something else. So I don't mind painting like the slogans, like go tell your mom about it, or whatever those die you fascist pig dog kind of thing. But the actual red stars where you want them even and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm gonna leave that for decal purposes. So I do have. I think I got some in the closet. I got a big Tupperware Rubbermaid bin that has all my World War II 20 mils in there. I got all kinds of tough stuff in there. Back when I was like buying tons of things and not doing anything with it. Even I was guilty of that. So yeah, let's go run this shovel a little bit. All right, and we got some wood things here. Let's use a different color. Let's use a different color for that. See, I'm on a roll, and I want to see what this little guy's going to end up looking like. Leather brown. Army painter. I don't like their paints. I like their colors. I just don't like how they flow. Doesn't mean I won't use them. Let's see. They're a weird consistency. We're still going to have to come back and paint those little packs a little bit more. We're not done with that. So there's this rusty stuff that's on here, for just being really basic right now, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. Of course, we're going to brighten it up some in some other stages. I'm just kind of trying to bring everything up so it all kind of comes up at the same time. What was I going to do? Oh, the wood. See? Ooh, shiny. I forgot. Ooh, shiny. But I've been itching to buy some of those plastic soldier company because they're like rapid build kits. I mean, I want to paint them. I don't really want to spend a ton of time painting, building them. But then I realized, you know what? I could very easily get myself in a situation where I buy some of that stuff, just one pack them. I'm down like $30 or something like that, and then I got me again. I didn't do anything with it, so I want to prove to myself that I can follow through and finish some of the stuff with the kits I already have before I go and get more. So this is this is me holding my feet to a fire. What am I trying to say? You know what I'm trying to say. Trying to make sure I don't pull a fast one on myself. Problem with ordering this stuff is shipping is just ridiculous now, and nobody wants to pay for shipping. Shipping's just a way of getting the product into your hand. Nobody wants to pay extra for that. So, by the way, that is not the same Phil Barker. This is the Empire of the Pedal film Phil Barker. Aha. Just realized they both had the same name. Oh, cool. Just like the Steve Jacksons. I hear peeps moving to Florida because your government only your government's only one with head on its shoulders. Well, who knows? You know who the only people with their heads on their shoulders? The people. Those of us that are not sold to anybody. So you can't buy me. I would never make it in politics. Well, I want to do this. Well, if you do this for me, I'll give you a yacht. I don't want a yacht. I know what to do the right thing. So, yeah. My idea of government is just leave me alone. If all of a sudden tomorrow they canceled all the laws, I wouldn't misbehave. I know how to behave. They're there for other people, you know? I thought Arizona had its head on their shoulders. Maybe they don't. I don't know. I try not to watch the news. It's just like, okay, what bullshit are they going to sell on me today? Just leave me alone. Leave me be. Yeah, lots of places are shut down. I guess we're in good shape as far as that goes. Look, I just go to work. I come home. I might go to the grocery store on the way home. That's it. I go to Mitch's house. I don't do crazy stuff. I'm not going to Disney and, I don't know when I'm going to return to a theme park, to be honest. We did that a lot. We used to do that all the time. And we're like, oh, you got to do this, and you can't even walk around with a beer. And no, no, no. I'm not gonna go through that much trouble on my day off. I just assume stay home. So, This thing has really, really, really divided us. Really, really divided us. It's been the opposite of 9/11. And I really don't see an end in sight where it's going to come to an end, but whatever. We probably will not be going to Historicon this year, even if they hold it. So, um, okay. I fortunately have a job that, even though I don't like my job, I don't have any extra restrictions that have been put on me because of this current situation. So, thank goodness. Okay. Let's see what we're looking like so far. Let's see what we're looking like so far. Okay. Focus, damn it, focus. Okay, so we got to fix these little knapsacks. They look kind of shitty. Wood looks all right. We'll do some pin washing on here and stuff. Amen. The WOG Productions. WOG. Well, pray for me in California. We're recalling the piece of crap out of Sacramento. Laws of God, man, make it not some senile. Yeah. I don't like being told what to do. And it seems like everybody that wants to control us has an agenda. That's the problem. So I've behaved for 49 years. I don't need somebody telling me now what to do. So I'm a big boy. You know, why should I listen to people that can't even balance a checkbook? You know what I'm saying? See, we collect $4 and we spend 9. Yeah. Okay. This is good. Luckily, I have lots of stuff to paint. I mean, I have a lot of stuff to paint. I mean, if I don't have to order stuff for ever, so I'm good in that department. Because the shipping things in the UK is just gone crazy. I know there's people over there hurting with that whole with their shipping charges and stuff. So okay, so I think what I'm going to have to do is, well, let's go ahead and finish this little guy over here. Let's go ahead and where was the color I was using for this guy? Let's see. It wasn't this. Was it over here? Okay, it wasn't this one. It was the leather one that we used, I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong. It's not that really that important. It wasn't like I was loving the color I was using or anything. I'm gonna guess it was this. All right, let's try messing with this again. All right. It looks lighter than that. I wonder what color it was. Okay. Yeah, we stopped getting together for about 5 weeks earlier in the week. I really did it for respect for someone I live with. And then I don't think we're going to be doing that again. We're going to be, we're just going to be plugging away with our, we'll still do our videos with our few folks that we get together with. And, and if we don't have a convention ever, well, we just, at least we got to go to plenty of them. I mean, I got to go to Historicon every year since 2006 until 2019. So can't really complain. It's a shame that things are different now, but what am I going to do about it? You know, I got a gaming group with some good folks. We get together once a week. Can't really complain about that. That's a lot better than some folks out there. So, okay. Let's lighten this up. I still would rather do what I'm doing now, interacting with people all over the world, and not go to conventions. I think it's more useful. I think it benefits everybody better. I get a lot more painting done, so that's a good thing. We'll keep doing that until it stops being fun or until YouTube charges me to make the videos. Then we won't be doing that. But yeah, I think this is very beneficial just for myself and of just being able to stay on task and move forward, getting things accomplished. So I enjoy and appreciate the interaction. Mm, did you hear it snowed in Scottsdale earlier this week? Could make snowmen. Scottsdale's up in the mountains, isn't it? I'm afraid I don't know. I don't know Arizona geography too well. All I have to do is just go there one time, and that would fix that. But unfortunately, I think it's a bit far to drive. We're going to be we're going to be driving everywhere for a while that we go to trips. So we just came over the holiday. We went to Tennessee, had a great time in Tennessee. Arizona, unfortunately, is a bit far. I would have no problem going to Arizona. Just it's a long ways away. It's a long ways away, which takes a lot of time when you have a limited vacation. So, and fuel's going to get, well, it's going to be, let's just hope you have a four banger like I do. It's it's going to get ugly, and it's going to get really ugly in California. But we know some folks that were in Florida. They got a job over there in the Bay Area, and they were there like 6 months, and they just couldn't take it anymore. They couldn't take the cost of living. It was just too much. It was too much money in, money out. So I couldn't deal with the earthquakes. That's like I'm out. Like my hobby and earthquakes are not compatible. You know, um, I can't have all my things destroyed and start over. I can't. You know. Um, so if I did, I just wouldn't get back into it. I'm like, okay, that's it. I'm not starting over again. That was nice. We'll just stick to video games. thing about it is that I'm pretty sure that the weather is a lot better. I think the weather here is terrible. Not right now. I think the weather right now is wonderful here, but the rest of the year, unless you're wet at the beach, or unless you love bugs, Florida weather is it's miserable. It's miserably hot, and where I'm at, it's miserably no breeze. But it is what it is. I do a lot better with it than like when I go somewhere to an environment that's very dry, and I have to drink a lot of water or get these massive headaches. So I actually have to drink more in the winter here than in the summer because the dryness is really what kills me. So yeah, Arizona wouldn't be good for me, but no doubt it would be beautiful. I like all those mountains and all that stuff that's the opposite of where I live. I appreciate that stuff a lot. Okay, let's see what we're looking at here. I put my glasses on so I can see. If I hold it farther away here. Let's see what this little guy's looking at. Okay, this is... I don't know if I'm going to do any washing on this thing. This still has... this still is fairly dark. What time is it? I'm not ready to go to bed. I'm on a roll. Besides, I go to bed, I gotta go to work. Ugh. It's not TGI Friday until like 7 p.m. tomorrow for me. So people are like, hey, TGI Friday. Yeah, after work. Not at the beginning of the day. Fridays are a rough day for me. We do things for Mondays, which are always busy. We load things in advance. And of course, nobody wants to do a damn thing on a Friday. And you're burned out from the week. So I'm not one of those people that likes to go out on Friday. I usually on Friday, it's like, what do you want to do? Nothing. Leave me alone. I'm recovering. I'm recovering, damn it. Yeah, I'm having fun with this. This is something different. This is something different. That was the whole point in doing it, so it would be something different. Let's not forget the shovel. We gotta do the shovel. I've got some model glue that I picked up. What day did I pick it up? Monday. I picked it up Monday because in case I really enjoyed this, I knew this was kind of coming up, and I said, well, I got some kits I want to do, and the weld cement I had was so old that it actually went bad. I was using a stuff by Microscale called I think it was called Microweld, and I liked it because it was non-toxic. Non-toxic from the standpoint of I could be in the same room with it open and you can't even smell it. But they don't have that here at uh, at the hobby store or at Hobby Lobby. Is really the only hobby store we have here. They had the old Testers one that I also used to use, and the Tamiya one. So we're gonna pull all three of those. I ordered the micro weld when it comes in and do a little comparison on the three on the three little glues. Here's a little story about the three little glues. Yeah, yeah, that. And yeah, looking at doing some kits as well. But I'm still going to go back to the 15s. This is just kind of a little in between there. It's hard to get motivated to paint the same old at 9 o'clock at night. So I was just enough to do something a little bit more exciting. But then it's better than not doing anything at all. So which is what it would have turned into. So. We'll pick up some of this stuff to do on the side as we go. But for much of my model building years, the problem I would have is I would get a bunch of stuff because it was really cool. And then I would start building it or what have you. And then I'd get to a crossroads where I had to make a decision about whether it was how something was going to be mounted or what color I was going to paint it or some decision that I would get into analysis paralysis. And then I would just not make a decision and go and work on something else. And that's how most of my model building had been. And it's very unsatisfying to be that way. And because the problem I realize is, even with painting stuff, sometimes I just don't know what color to paint something, so I just avoid making the decision. And when in fact, I don't remember the last time I painted something and I wasn't really happy with how it turned out or the color that I picked. So a lot of it is just kind of like, you do it to yourself by analysis paralysis. So try to avoid doing that. Making videos like this helps because it forces me to make a decision, even if it's wrong. Make a decision, even if it's wrong. It's just a model kit. I mean, what? Why are you so damn worried about it? But I'm sure all of us go through that. So, okay, I think this is where we're going to stop with this guy for tonight. I've got a little BT7 here, and got some null little places. We'll have to come in and dry brush a little bit more so we get some more contrast on there. And yeah, I think it's kind of hard to tell because it is a little shiny right now. I think it looks pretty good for a pretty basic looking kit. So yeah, it's kind of hard to say when you end up putting that flat coat on it. It just makes all the difference in the world. But I think we got to spray it gloss just before we do the decals so that the decals let adhere there well. But I could see putting a little red star on there and like a 2-digit number or something on the turret. That's kind of what we'd be looking at doing. But anyhow, thanks for hanging out with me, folks. Thanks for stopping by and indulging in my tanks here. That just something a little different. I'm sure you guys didn't mind seeing something a little different. It's kind of old seeing the same old, but anyhow, we'll catch you guys next time. One more day to go, and then we got the weekend. So, anyways, looking forward to it, and we'll see you guys soon. Good night, folks. Good night, Rick. Have a good one. Bye bye.